Good. Well, welcome. Greetings from the future. Tales from the metaverse. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about tangible and non-tangibles.
Music is like one of the very first things that people were kind of in shock and awe. You take like the iPod when this is amazing. I can carry 500 songs on this little thing, and there's no way you could carry enough CDs to have all that music. There's a magic with technology, and maybe less devices needed to be used. We're directly seeing the results of more things available online. You know, we want these online subscriptions to where people just have access to, huge catalogs of content. And are people complaining that there has so much access, or are they embracing it like, wow, this is kind of cool. This is amazing. You're having to make decisions, though, for sure, because with all the choices that you're having now, and I feel like even in here, a lot of choices. You're getting to be in whatever experience that you want to be in, and that's empowering, very empowering. So I'm
Okay.
I'm embracing it.
Thank you. Chris?
So many concepts. Like if you think about music, for example, as Eric mentioned that, if you're just singing a song, is that tangible? No, because it's done vibrations coming out of your mouth. It's floating through the room. What is one of the biggest values in life? Probably it's love, people would say. Is love tangible?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
get
yes.
that? But people will say this is one of the most valuable thing that you can ever have. So value and something has not to be tangible, in my opinion. And there are so many concepts when you think about that. Money, we will talk about that later. People will come and see that something has a meaning for them, and they don't need to have something physically in their hands, carry it around, showing it, whatever. It's enough to have a place where they can visit it, where they can use it, or be together with other people or whatever. So, and that will have a big value, but it's definitely not tangible at all. But we will get used to that.
So yeah, in terms of what you said, Eric, one of the things, and this goes to your point too, Chris. One of the things that people I found is the tangibility of things, and this is one of the problems that we had in the early days of e-commerce, where people couldn't touch something and they weren't used to the idea of something being non-tangible. And people used to love lining up their CD collection or video collection or whatever on multiple shelves, taking up space, but it looked good. One could go in there and see this collection and impress your friends with digital music, for example, which is again non-tangible, as you say. I mean, other than showing your friend an account on the phone or creating playlists and things like that, which I guess does make it a little bit tangible. We're moving away from this era of physical possessions. At least I hope so. I mean, I think people are too attached to the physical. So it's going to be interesting to see where this heads to.
You have items. It's less. You're needing less items. Like I mean, obviously everybody already knows with the cell phone. You think about all of like apps, the way you can make it. It's a phone. It's a calculator. It can measure things. It can do endless amount of tasks for you. Voice all of these devices that you would need to be able to do that. How can we not justify like having this one device? Like, yeah, you're making one device, but the resources in that device, yes, it's tangible, but very useful. So,
For sure.
No, extremely useful. Yes.
The computer and I think microcomputing, anyways, was giving so much to the people because they were able to use all these different technologies that were coming after. and giving them so many things, from writing text and reading 1,000 books without having all the storage space somewhere, and so on and so on and so on. And handheld computing is another step forward. I'm sure metaverse, virtual reality, is giving us again more possibilities, because now we are immersed. We can be in a space, and we don't have to build this giant building here and again ruin the planet just to have seats and roofs and expensive wood on the table, whatever. Can be there virtually.
No, exactly. In fact, you remind me of one of my pains of my previous years, when I actually owned approximately 4,000 different books, physical books. And
Okay.
every time I moved, I cursed myself, and the movers cursed me, and it was a major hassle to move those books. But interestingly enough, since then I've probably got half that collection back, and
Yeah,
it now sits on my phone and my computer. So, I don't have physical books anymore. In fact, I'm to the point where I try to avoid getting physical objects, simply because they end up being clutter. So, I fully embrace what's going on here.
definitely. Think about this. So many people are downsizing, right? They're doing van life, living on boats, living in a van, being independent, not hanging on something to possess. And I'm quite sure that all those digital possibilities today are one of the reasons why they do that. Because think about that, doing this in the 80s, in the 1980s, you would have to carry video cassettes and stuff with you because you want to have some entertainment when you're moving around. And this is taking up a lot of space. Today, you just have a tablet, internet connection, and you have billions of movies, music.
How currency evolved. It's a fascinating topic, because people, in certain parts of the world, for example, Africa, where I come from, there's many parts of Africa where wealth is not measured in the amount of money you have, but in the number of cows you have,
House, goats,
um, and other, say, tangible things that people can
temple
measure.
things.
Ironically, one of them is, the number of wives you have, which,
Oh,
people
okay.
might find strange, but it's very
Yeah,
normal there. There has to be a mindset change that takes place here when someone says, okay, we're not going to be dealing in cows anymore. We're going to be dealing in these little sparkly coins. And I think,
yeah,
that's reasonably easy to accept, because the coins are made out of, gold or silver or copper, which is perceived as having some value.
why is gold or silver so valuable in the end? Because it's a resource that is quite limited, and that's all.
I suppose the question really extends beyond the metals to, the controlling influences. Who wants to see a particular currency do well? Who wants to, make it scarce? And it's the same thing, and we'll be talking about crypto in a little bit, where the scarcer the crypto is, the higher the value is, because people perceive that if they don't get into it now, they're not going to get into it, and it's going to be hard or expensive to obtain.
Well, I know you're talking about it being of coins and the way it did, but then it went and now it's paper. A lot of people don't even carry any coins. It's a little piece of paper that says things on it, and it only has value because we say it has value. So I feel like in where we're going with it being digital, it's the same thing. It's all perspective. People believe it has value, it's going to have value.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
the thing, that what people believe. I think you hit the nail on the head. If you convince enough people that something has value, and it has value, and we've seen that, through the years, where Pokemon cards, various other things, all of a sudden acquire value.
Right, and these tennis shoes, These people have rooms full of tennis shoes that are brand new, never used. A new shoe comes out, people are buying it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where do they put all these shoes? They're on display in their place.
After the Second World War in Berlin, for example, we had a new currency. That currency were cigarettes.
Yep.
That's the point. People were on the black market, they were using cigarettes as a currency. Because that was something people wanted. Basically,
Which is
anything can be a
interesting
currency.
because some people don't smoke. So now you're determining value. And it's the same thing like a pair of shoes. The thing with a pair of shoes is they only fit a certain size. So to one person, they might think this is super valuable, but to another person, this shoe has no value. They would never pay that for the shoe. It's completely has zero. There's no interest.
Collections of non-tangible shoes out there, and I was thinking to myself, why would someone want a collection of shoes? You just answered the questions.
Talking about tangible to intangible, when we start going to crypto, is a wallet. Because everybody knows what a wallet is. You carry it. That's where your cards are. That's where your money is. This is something that people understand. So, I mean, it makes sense when we see that you should have a wallet to put your money in, and if you want to be involved in crypto.
Avoided carrying a wallet for the longest time because it just is a hassle. And in fact, I had a little plastic baggie that I used to put my credit cards in.
That's like
Cash in,
that's
but
an expensive wallet. But the thing is I think here they don't charge for a lot of wallets. I think it's free.
Probably the most common wallet is the wallet that sits on one cell phone that you can download from the App Store or the Apple Store.
All the people that never
With
had contact with all this, I think it's important to understand technically what that is. And in the end, it's always bits and bytes. It's just
exactly.
type of organization. And we should be
Yes.
sure we need the wallet because you want to store something in there. And what do we store in there?
And that's the problem, Chris, is that there are many wallets out there. The Trust wallet, for instance, the Edge wallet, and various others. But some of these wallets are very limited in terms of the currencies that you can store in there. And so, one might end up having a number of different wallets because a lot of these wallets also have their own ecosystem where, they're trying to get users in and profit by it. Another thing that's popular in terms of wallets is a hardware wallet, a cold wallet, basically, like the Ledger, which
Right, which is up there, a distributed ledger. So if you had to give somebody like one or two sentences if somebody doesn't really know what a ledger is, because we got a lot of topics to cover, what would you describe a ledger?
well, the distributed ledger up there is actually in reference to the blockchain, where the blockchain is described as a system of distributed ledgers because you basically have a copy of a transaction on multiple computers. And so that's a little different from a wallet in that the wallet contains your crypto, it contains your NFTs, it provides you access to the currency. The distributed ledgers basically provide access to the flow of the currency. Everything in crypto is about addresses. So money, cryptocurrency, NFTs, etc., are all sent to an address.
Could you talk a little bit about the altcoin?
Bitcoin is considered to be, the primary cyber coin out there. Altcoins are basically the rest. Ethereum sits on the, sort of the pillar. Regular coins like Bitcoin, we've seen have, gone from X dollars up to the sky, and then they plummet and then they go up again. I mean, there's a lot of volatility in the market. Stable coins are pegged to either gold, a fiat currency, or other cryptocurrencies. So if you look up a stable coin, if it's pegged to the US dollar, you'll see that the value is worth $1.
Creating a purpose for these coins. I think people are making these coins, and that what you were describing, and that is a perfect example is, okay, you're making a coin, but what is its purpose? What is its commodity? Like, how is this something used in society? And I think that is a really important question to now being like a stable coin. But go ahead and go.
No, and I mean that's a really good point because Bitcoin was originally created to circumvent the world banking systems to have so there was a reason behind it. Dogecoin, as I said, was created as a joke coin, but to your earlier point, Elon Musk, for instance, started pushing it and mentioning it in tweets. And so people thought, oh, Musk is mentioning this coin. And so, it's got to be worth something. Let's buy it and buy it and buy it. And, all of a sudden, price goes up. So we now see, land on sale in the metaverse, non-tangible land. It's
And this is the breakpoint here, because talking about the metaverse, that's purpose of our show here. And here, things are converging. Like, this is basically done for the metaverse, or it's part of the metaverse. However, this virtual land or property or whatever it is in the end, that's this construct, this idea of, well, you will be able to buy some piece of land where you can build your virtual home, like this here, and your neighbor will be whatever, another person, maybe someone famous, and maybe we will see the same stuff that we see today in the real world. Like, you want to buy a property and next to you a Hollywood star has a house. Well, it's getting more and more and more expensive just because of the fact that, on the left side or whatever, there's a big star, and then someone wants 10 million more, and it's basically worth. So it's somehow a game. And virtual land is probably also a game. Like, someone said, well, let's set up a server, let's make a construct, make an idea. We have the world, real world, and we have little tiny fragments of that we're going to sell. And someone wants to have this virtual Eiffel Tower, or I don't know, the Sunset Strip, or I don't know, whatever. And just because they have this thing in their mind, like, this is a very valuable place, let's pay something for that in the virtual world. But again, it's not in the end that you're owning the Eiffel Tower in the real
right,
world.
exactly.
No,
Exactly.
it's just that you own it on that server.
Someone was selling a stadium in Spain for I think $23 million, and I mean, to your point, you don't own it, and you can't go to the physical stadium owner and say, guess what, I just
Yeah.
bought the stadium, please move out because I now own
Yeah.
it. And the other complication, of course, is that there's not just one server, there's multiple servers that you can buy the same property on. And so, who owns cyberspace, basically? I mean,
Is this studio worth right here? Because it's an actual space that you can go in, you could host something, you can film something. So you're creating something tangible, so other people are going to be able to watch this at another time. So what is this worth? Because I think that something like this has more value than just like a picture that somebody's saying. Like, it's like buying at you can become noble. You could spend this little bit of money and they'll mail you a certificate that you are a lord or a lady. And it's like, how many people are hanging that on their wall at their house, and they got this tangible thing. You can address me as Lord now. lord of the manor, you know, because you
It's gamification. In the end, it's yeah, an idea.
Whole land grab reminds me a lot about, you know, Monopoly, playing Monopoly. And, you know, so, I mean, here, for example, is upland. And, you know, we have a map here of Southern California, the Beverly Hills, West Hollywood area. And as you can see, there's a lot of concentration in certain of these areas where, you know, I didn't check to see what it would cost to buy in there, but, you know, probably millions of dollars. But, you know, you don't have to be in a prime area. And so you can, you know, find somewhere in Southern California. And here's an example of, you know, a lot for sale. And, you know, I think the price on this was pretty reasonable. I think it was like 25 bucks or something like that for this little
Mm.
strip of virtual land. But, you know, then the question is, you know, what do you do with it and why?
yeah, is their end goal to get you to buy the land, and then you got to hire a builder from their company, to their construction company, that then now build it? So the land was $25, but now we're going to sell you a house on here. Do you want the $100 house, the $500 house? You know, this is in a suburb of you know, Beverly Hills. You can't have $100 house. Like, actually, the you know, you got in cheap with the land, but I don't know. It's definitely you know, this is that gray area that I think is interesting with all of this, because what is its true value going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I mean, to answer your question, the and this goes back to Chris's comment again about the gamification, where, you know, this is really a monopoly game where, you know, you buy the land, you go to the app, you can buy additional things to go on the land, you can buy buildings, you can put the land up for sale once you've, you know, put a building up there or added features to it. You know, and again, you know, the more land you own, the points you get, the more power you have. It's you know, a total game. But, you know, instead of playing a free board game, you're now paying to play. You know, and of course, you know, all of these ecosystems have their own cryptocurrency as well, and so, you know, they encourage you to buy a particular currency. Um, which gives you
Clear.
better deals, etc. So, you know,
Yeah.
ultimately, it's a game.
It's a game. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's the Wild West right now, because there's so much uncertainty. It's going to be something. It's just a matter of what it's going to be. It's, I think, the thing,
Well,
or
I mean,
what
how
is
can
going to
it
become.
be? I mean, how can it be something? I mean, you know, that, you know, I mean, you're talking about the Eiffel Tower or whatever, and I mean, no way, you know, ever are you going to be able to go to the Eiffel Tower, the physical Eiffel Tower, no matter how many versions you own in the metaverse. You know, no way can you go there and say, I now own this. You know, how
Yeah.
does it?
Well, that's the thing with the translation of that's always going to be open to interpretation, is the world that we all exist in that is not this world. How does that go from, because that would what everyone would agree to be tangible, and some people would say that this is intangible, but the question is how tangible are we going to make this place? How close to real is it going to be, to where some people think the experience is just like going to the Eiffel Tower. Your view up there, you know, romantic. You know, you didn't need to hop on a plane to fly all the way there and spend all
Yeah.
that money to just have that moment. Now the world can experience that moment, and you know, maybe you just flow the creator of the space and show them some appreciation for going to their space, and it's like going on a tour guide here. There's some value to that. And you know, what is that experience? If it would cost you
Right, right, right.
10,000 to do the trip, or if you're just able to go with your friend, "Hey, let's go," you know? Let's go over here. I
like
want to go visit this space. So
NFTs. What is the relationship between NFTs and copyright law? What rights are conferred when someone sells another individual an NFT? Is that considered a derivative work from the perspective of like United States copyright law? What rights
no,
derive
excellent
from?
question, because there's been a lot of problems with that recently as it relates to NFTs, and copyright law does not change. And so, you can't go out and say, oh, this is a great image. I'm going to turn it into an NFT, even though it's owned by someone else. Basically, you have to own the copyright to the image to turn it into an NFT. And I see that being, the problem extending to these land sales, because as a photojournalist, if you're out in the public space, generally speaking, you can photograph anything, and there is no copyright or restrictions to what you can photograph. However, we're starting to see buildings, statues, various other tangible objects be copyrighted. And a good example is, I don't remember the particular statue's name, but I believe it's in either Finland or Sweden, that's in the public view, but photographers have taken pictures of it and have ended up being sued as a result. So, again, I mean, the quick answer to your question is it doesn't change copyright law. You have to own.
And there's differences depending on where you are in the world in regards to copyright law and how it works, and artist rights and moral rights and so forth. So it's like NFTs. Navigating that in the context of NFTs, I think could be very challenging in regards to, especially what people believe they are receiving. There was an example you may be familiar with where someone bought a group of people bought a copy of, like, I believe it was Jodorowsky's sketchbook for the Dune movie. Like his like are you familiar with the Dune? It's a book. It's
Yes.
yeah. Like and at one point in the past, a director named Jodorowsky was going to make a movie about it. They even made a documentary about him trying to do it. And then I believe recently, I could be mistaken about this, but a few months ago, some group bought it, and their intent is to then create NFTs from this content. Although the content in and of itself, it's a mess for copyright, because while this is Jodorowsky's interpretation of that content, he didn't own the rights to the original work of Dune. So all of that is a derivative work. Now they're intending to make content and NFTs based upon that. This sounds like a huge lawsuit waiting to happen, but I may be mistaken about who.
No, I heard about that, and you're right. They didn't understand copyright law when they paid, whatever it was for that copy of Dune.
It was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was up there, and so yeah, I mean, it's the same. I had a student once that I ran his paper through a plagiarism engine, and it came back all plagiarized, and I asked him, well, what's the deal here? You've plagiarized directly from this book. And he said to me, well, I bought the book, and so I own the book, and I don't have to attribute what I wrote to the book. And no, that's not, you buy a book, you don't really own it. You own a copy of that book. It's not yours to alter or claim that you wrote it.
Right. We're sort of in the wild west of this. I think it's got to it's unknown where how everything is gonna settle. And I think people's perceptions need to be informed greater in regards to the limitations of that with these purchases and technologies. But it's fascinating.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yes.
I mean, in this context, in the end, when you think about those different types of licenses, let's say you're making a photo and you make it Creative Commons, and you say, well, you can alter it, you can use it anywhere. and someone takes it because it's a great photo and makes an NFT out of that. Is that part of that license? Should the license be altered or changed to,
Yeah. I would argue that I would argue that like the creation of the NFT can't trump the Creative Commons license in and of itself. Like limit others' usage of that. That would be I think wrong or immoral. Like if the original creator has decided to give rights to other people for very specific uses, the creation of an NFT should not trump that. That
Well,
designation. But I don't.
Well, that's where we're
Right,
hoping
right.
with the blockchain goes to, okay, let's say you do create a work of art, you could put it out there and say, hey, other people can license this, but this creator is going to get, let's say, 20% of whatever
Mhm.
comes in. So it's just like they did the work, the heavy lifting, and it can be,
Right.
and the blockchain will
Sure.
make sure that people are gotten paid. And I feel like that is where, music and YouTube and where everything is going, there's a lot of content creators that are out there that are not being compensated for their art. So we do believe here in the metaverse, one of the things that's most important is people are going to get paid for compensated for their creations, and just small people at the top shouldn't be able to keep everything.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
like
Yeah, we want
that
to
to me is
promote the creation
criminal.
of new works. We want to promote the creation of new works, and by compensating those who created the works is certainly part of that equation. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yes,
Well, you bring up, I
100%.
mean, Eric, an interesting point. So, for example, on OpenSea, when you create a NFT, you can add a percentage that you will receive on a resale. So, if you sell that NFT on OpenSea, someone buys it and then they resell it to somebody else, you get a percentage of that resale value. So that's a great way
Mhm.
to have the artist continually be rewarded for their work. But the problem to me though is that in the early days of NFTs, for example, one of the things that was brought up was that the only thing that an NFT does is it associates a particular artwork with ledger entry on the blockchain. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't put the artwork on the blockchain.
Right.
It really is just a digital entry. So
Right.
I think this whole, I mean, as you say, it's the Wild West, and we're going to start seeing it evolve to the point that you may end up with something that is more than just an entry in your wallet to prove that you own this.
Right.
I mean, I think
Okay.
one of the things that I want to see be most important is the genuineness, the authenticness, and that's where I think the blockchain really, if it's like something is captured, it knows the inception of everything, and the intelligence just gets smart enough. This is some of the benefits I feel like of AI. There's a lot of records to be kept, and us, that we need someone like that can really handle this massive amount of data that will need to be processed to make sure everybody's compensated. Imagine if there's 100 points in everything that comes out, and there's 100 people that you see these fractions of a fraction. I mean, that's the future.
Well, I think that's where OpenSea
Um,
is positioned itself to be the company that handles all these transactions, and it's the place to go.
Right. So personally, I don't own any cryptocurrency. I have not delved into it. I have some somewhat ethical concerns about the creation and the resources that go into the creation of cryptocurrency.
mhm,
So I'm not sure where I stand. I'm not that educated on the subject, but my understanding is that it's a tremendous energy expenditure for the creation of these. So I don't know. A separate question of like how much should we adapt cryptocurrency in across the world and rely
mhm,
upon those. My interest in the metaverse. I'm interested in NFTs. I'm a musician, so I'm interested in the metaverse for other reasons other than NFTs and cryptocurrency. I think
mhm.
that there's amazing possibilities for musicians, musical getting together and performances with other musicians around the world in the metaverse. Something that I haven't seen anyone really do yet. I don't know if the technology is there to do it. I think there has to be leaps and bounds in terms of latency, but like that's really where I'm very interested in creating an infrastructure in the metaverse that would make it so a musician in disparate locations could say, "Hey, let's play a gig together. You're in New York, I'm in Seattle, you're in London. We've never played together. Hey, let's play a gig and open it to the public and sell tickets to it." Like that would be amazing, and it would change the way musicians work around the world. It would really be just amazing to see that happen. And I think the technology is moving towards that. It's not quite there yet. I've tried to do it with some people, but anyway, that's kind of my interest in sort of the metaverse. And so I think NFTs and cryptocurrency certainly comes into play with all of these things. I'm not sure NFTs.
Definitely.
I'm not sure if NFTs would be applicable to the sale of music. I'm not sure. I just don't know enough about it. I think for artwork and things of that nature, it makes a lot more sense. But for selling music, I don't know. Maybe it is possible.
No, I mean anything. Basically, there's nothing really that can't be turned into an NFT, and music, since it's digital, can actually be easily turned into an NFT. Again, it has to be an original work.
Right.
I mean, I think ultimately, going back to your question of copyright, this might become an alternative method of registering copyright. So, you do some music, you produce some music, and then you turn it into an NFT instead of sending it to the copyright office to copyright it. So, that might happen on the road.
Right. I guess the implicit idea, however, correct me if I'm wrong, of an NFT is it's like a single copy, like that one person at a time can possess. So I think in the context of music, like if I guess a musician could say, I'm going to make an alternate mix and sell this alternate mix version of this as an NFT to somebody, like, and then try to create value. I mean, I think the concept behind NFTs is applying scarcity to something that is very different from where the landscape of the digital world started, where it's just like, oh my God, I can make MP3s and share music and get it out there. Like, so they're competing interests, kind of in a way. Like for musicians, it used to be distribution. Like if you didn't have access to a record company, a distribution network, you couldn't get people to hear your music. Now it's like I can create a song and somebody in Korea can hear it 5 minutes after I finish mixing it. That's amazing, right? But that's very different from like the making it a commodity or making it have value, by controlling how many copies there are. It's like giving a tangible limitation on how available it is, inside of the digital world. I don't know, it's kind of fascinating.
And that's something you can do. So, you can either make it, or you can, produce X number of copies of this. And so, again, it depends on how scarce you want to make it, and how many bragging rights you want to give people that own it, in terms of, I'm the only person in the whole world that owns this. And
I think for most musicians, they don't want to. I don't know. Maybe some do. I think most musicians, they want to get their musician out. They want to touch a lot of people, and so to speak. They want to, get their
right.
They want to share it with a lot of people, but they obviously want to be compensated for their work so they can continue to create those works. So it's interesting. It's an interesting balance at play, I think.
Well, this one was just, the fact that we now have technology to capture digital spaces, which again then can be turned into NFTs. The next slide here, this is some of my artwork that is on 2 NFT sites. This is, one of them. This is on, thank you, OpenSea, which is, as I mentioned, I think the NFT site out there, and it includes pretty much everything that you could think of: video, still images, land, etc. So
I think that's worth more than 2 Ethereum right there. I think that's worth like 5 Ethereum right there.
Okay, I think
Thank
you have
you.
someone who's
Sold
going
to
to buy
Eric
it.
for 5
So,
Ethereum. He just bid on it, right?
you know what? At the time, I don't have any Ethereum, but if I did have some Ethereum, that's what I would value it at. All right. I mean, part of me that I really think like the tangible versus intangible when it comes to NFT art. Like, I think it's great seeing it online, but actually, if you spend thousands of dollars on something, some people might want it in like a frame that they can hang it on their wall at their house as well. And I feel like that's where it really goes the tangible versus intangible, because you might as well own something physical if you can, and you're spending a lot of money on it. So I don't know.
No,
That's
and I think that's actually a really good point, and it's something I've been thinking about is, adding that to this physical artwork as well.
So I think that's a great idea to offer the printed version as well as the digital version because yeah, some people would like to hang it on their wall. I would love to have that on my wall. That's beautiful. That is a beautiful piece of art.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, it's
Yeah, I think
beautiful.
I'm going to do that because it's, relatively inexpensive, and one can have these printing companies drop ship to, whichever address.
Yes.
And so, yeah, there's minimum involvement. I mean, basically just the
Yes.
digital file. Although, it would be nice to say, include the artist's signature or something like that on it.
Oh,
So,
you can do that as well and make it more personalized and then get it sent to your home and then you can have, there's services also that pick up from your house things and then, UPS has something that they'll pick up from your home, you know?
good point. Yes,
So
yes.
so, if just throwing it out there, I mean, there's ways that you can make it more personalized with your signature. Um and it's
so
it's a piece of
Clay,
you and somebody else's oasis.
Right.
um,
Mhm.
Clay, for you as someone who's already in the metaverse, and here in Altspace you are, or you have an avatar. So this topic of cryptocurrency, maybe also virtual land that you can buy, or NFTs, is that something that you are actively going to use? Are you going to buy an NFT or a piece of virtual land? Could you imagine that?
um I could imagine people doing it. Me personally, I would have to maybe research more into it since I'm new to it. But I mean, I would think of buying art, yes, but crypto, I've been trying to look into it, but it's so, you know, new and like in my space, in my world, it's a little bit taboo still to where, it's like air money. You just throw money out
Right.
there.
Yes.
So yeah. So if you don't understand it, that's really what it is. Because if you invest on something and it's like, oh well, you lose all your money if you don't get your money back because you invested on the wrong thing. So, but in the future, I do see it as something, where money is not going to be like cash itself. It's not going to be as important as it is in today's world. I do see a world
Okay.
and heading on that direction, especially with the printing. God knows if the resources are going to be, more scarce than what they are now. Climate change. I don't know if we're going to do something about it. We don't know. So, I
Right.
mean, digital. Hopefully, we make satellites where internet can be, you know, taken down by the zombie apocalypse or whatever may happen. But yeah, in the future, I don't know. I don't know what may happen, but I'm just saying that yes, that I think that crypto, I'm going really, yeah, I'm done. Okay, with the zombie
Awesome.
apocalypse.
No, good.
see,
Well, thank
see
you.
though, another person though. The thing is finding a purpose for the crypto, right? Like, are we
Yes.
buying it to have it as a money investment, or are we buying it because we want to buy things with it, or we want to appreciate some art?
Mm.
We want to give back to artists. Like the purpose behind it, I think, is really
Ooh, yes.
what is important for people to have confidence in something. Like, what am I getting out of this? Is this an investment? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
100%.
Yeah, that's true. Oh.
Well, maybe what we need
Sure.
to do is coming to the end of the session today. What we need to do is perhaps continue this discussion next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we really appreciate you visiting. Thank you, both of you, Jessica and Slay, for your comments today. It's been interesting, and it was a pleasure meeting you. And again, we're here every Tuesday at 7 a.m. Eastern, and just check the calendar for the topic. But I think we're definitely going to continue talking about this because we really just touched on crypto and NFTs, and as we said, each one of these could probably be a couple of hour lectures instead of trying to pack everything into a 1 hour session. So I hope you all have a great day and a great rest of the week. Any closing thoughts, Chris?
No, everything was said. It was a great talk, and yeah, we should talk about several aspects of that again.
Yes, great. Good. Eric?
Yeah, I really feel the value in passing this. This is an important piece of education of how we're adjusting to being okay with things not being as tangible and making people feel comfortable. 'Cause I think
Right.
that is something that is huge, and giving people some confidence. And I believe education makes people more confident. So, I love what we're doing here, and the goal is to, yes, make this a more acceptable experience here in the metaverse. And we're all here in the metaverse, so you guys get it. But we're all dealing with relationships with people who are not understanding this world yet either. So
Yes, that's true.
All right.
Perfect. Thank
transition.
you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you all. See you next time.
I'm going to run. Thanks everyone for attending today.